Welcome to the Ogle's channel. Thanks for watching today. Let's do a little update on the video I did like a year and a half ago about how the enemies in the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video game on the NES make complete sense. And in that video, we went through the entire first Turtles game and we tried to figure out where they got their ideas for all these enemies from, because they don't really match up with what most kids knew in the TV show. And we figured out most of it came from either the comic books or basically early concept of the TV show or some of the early concept of the action figures. And we really broke down all the enemies in that game based upon the information that we had. Well, we finally have a little bit of an update of where some of these enemies might have come from, or at least some new ideas about the concepts behind these enemies. Because recently the Cowabunga Collection came out on pretty much all systems, and within that they actually have a little part called the Turtle Lair where they do behind the scenes footage or behind the scenes concepts of all the Turtles games, including the first NES game. And so we finally have for the first time some of the enemy designs and some of the enemy concepts on that first game. So today's video is just simply going to go through all the early designs for these enemies, look at the concept art, some of the concept translations of what they were thinking about, and see if it matches up with what we had in that first video from like a year and a half ago. Alright, so let's load up here. Let's head on over here and let's go to the Turtles game and enemy designs. And so as we look here, the first page, let's get it translated as well. And the first page here just deals with the overall enemies as far as like the overhead enemies, like the map enemies. And most of these are pretty obvious. Like the first one here is the foot soldier. We all knew that was the foot soldier in the game because it looked exactly like a foot soldier. As you scroll down here, the roller car, assassin machine driven by the foot. I mean, I guess I didn't know for a fact the foot soldiers were driving it, but now we do. And those are the ones that would, of course, squish the turtles. That was pretty obvious. The bomber was pretty obvious within that level, as well as the searchlight mechanism. I don't know why they just call it a helicopter, but we already knew that was there searching out the turtles. I mean, these are really obvious ones from the map, but it's still cool to see some of their artwork on that, especially that helicopter one there, because it has like little insect legs coming down. It's cool to see those sketches brought to life, some of those for the first time, and what they're thinking about behind it. But let's get more into the enemies inside like the 2D levels, because those are the ones that were the most confusing for most players. Alright, so our first little group of enemies here, we have at the top the foot soldier. And this is a really unique look for the foot soldier as far as like artistic design goes, because look at the hand and the claws on that hand. Never have I seen a foot soldier have claws like that, and nor is that represented in the game so much, even though it says it has a claw attack. But it's just really cool to see, I guess, their take on the foot soldiers based upon what little information they had from the TV show and some of the scripts. As you go down here, we obviously have the Mousers, and the Mousers look, you know, pretty close to what we expect. But let's get more into the ones that were not, you know, as well known inside the game. And the first one we have down here is called the Flapjaws. Now the Flapjaws, in my last video, I called it a mechanical fly, or a robot fly. And right here, it proved me wrong because it says it's a mechanical bee. And based upon this artwork, you can definitely see it's a bee. You know, you can see more of the little stinger tail going down there. Does it change the possible inspiration a whole lot? Not really, because it probably still came from a similar inspiration as far as like the Mousers and the robot fly or the robot bee. But we do know it's called a flapjaw now, and it's a small mechanical bee. It says flying, it's got sort of its vitality stats over there and whatnot, but it's just sort of cool to see the actual artwork. Let's keep going. Alright, here we go. We got some different ones on this one. For our next area, we had, of course, what the chainsaw fella, and they actually gave him a name on here called Sprazzo. Now, I have no idea what Sprazzo means. If I figure it out, I'll actually put in a little caption down here at the bottom of the video. But I had no idea his name was Sprazzo, and I also had no idea, according to the information over here, that he has a metal mask. In my last video, I didn't even mention that. I said he was probably wearing a mask, but I didn't know it was a metal mask, and that changes his look so much, and it's such a haunting look now that we have a metal mask on him. I still think the inspiration is probably very similar to what I said in the first video, how they're based on the killer from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because they based Casey Jones to some degree, based upon Jason Voorhees. And so I think that's probably where the inspiration's still there. But I will look up Sprazzo for that, and it's just cool to see that new artwork. Then we have down here the Golem, and in the last video I did say that he was a rock creature, but I called him a rock lord based upon the turtles, or not the turtles, based upon the toys from the 80s, the rock lord toys. And of course it says here he can turn to stone, like we said in the last video. But it says through arduous training he has learned the statue technique. While he's in statue form, the player cannot damage him. So I guess they're trying to say he's like a human who can turn into a statue a little bit. I'm not sure on that. But either way, it's a cool concept. And I still think they're based upon sort of the 80s lore of like the rock lords and things like that. Then we have the Roof Leaper. Now the Roof Leaper is a little bit odd down here. because in the last video we said that it could have been like some sort of mutant, and it says here it's a gross insect that defies gravity. And so they're going more of the idea that this is just simply a like an insect, maybe like an alien insect, because so much of the early Turtles lore based upon alien creatures. And so, you know, they're probably sticking with that. But I mean, look at that artwork there. I mean, it almost looks more like a stinger, like a mosquito. I can see the two eyes there, a little stinger coming down, maybe some spiked hair. Because let's be honest, everybody had spiked hair back in the 80s. Cool design. Now down here we have what's called a hink. And I have no idea what a hink is. If I figured this out as well, I'll put it in the captions down at the bottom of the video. In the last one, I said it looked a little bit like a crab. I didn't say it was a crab. It just sort of reminded me of a crab based on the colors. But we said it's just simply a drone because drones were so popular at that time for the Turtles. But it says right here it's a mysterious entity that is neither organic nor mechanical, so it's not a drone. Rumor has it that it's a UFO. And that fit in perfectly with the early Turtles lore because so much of it rather took place in outer space. And so for them to be pulling in some of the alien technology or some of the alien beings, it makes perfect sense in this early Turtles game. So it's more obvious now that they were basing some of their enemies based on the outer space adventures from those early Turtles comics. All right, next up we have the Fire Freak. Now the Fire Freak, that name has maintained itself through the instruction manual, the player's guides, and of course all the way back to the early designs here. And I like the artwork. That's really cool looking. It says it spits fire bugs, which I had no idea. I thought it was like little, you know, fireballs or fire clones that would come out and attack you. So fire bugs, that's new. It says here an enemy covered in flames spits fireball. Well, which one is it? Is it fireballs or fire bugs? Even in the early concept, they were a little bit confused. Spits fireballs that come to life and chase the player. So that's of no big concern, and that sticks with pretty much what we said in the last video. Frog Guy. Now this one is unique here. Frog Guy, he looks more like a frog in this picture than he does in the actual game. But let's see what it says. It says, human merged with a frog has imposed leaping power. And we always thought that he was probably just a mutant frog, sort of like the, you know, Ninja Turtles were mutant turtles. And it makes complete sense. And then we have one of the most intriguing enemies in the entire game that I still wish I had more background on. And this is the Blood Eye. I had no idea he was called a Blood Eye. I always called him just sort of a spider eyeball because obviously he has the spider legs. And I still don't think they give us a good explanation here. It says it tracks enemies with its giant eye and assaults with tremendous speed. That's like no background on where it came from. All we really got extra on this is a new name, Blood Eye, and that it's it runs on the ground. Still, I wish we had more information. I mean, it's probably one of the alien beings based upon the early comics, or maybe a mutant from Shredder. We don't know. The winged bombs, this one is unique here because we didn't really know if it's technological or organic, and it just simply says a special device that can accurately seek out its players. And so a lot of these, they're not giving us more information of where they got the ideas. We're just sort of getting more information on, I guess, what they are designed to do inside the game. But the artwork, regardless, very, very cool, especially that Blood Eye right there. But even the Fire Freak looks pretty cool. Let's keep going here. All right, next here we have what they call on this one a junkie head, and that is not at all what he was called in the last one. I think he was just called like Robo or something like that in the last one. But he's that creature that you attack and his head comes off and flies off in another direction. And it right there, it says head flies off. And just says a steel giant, even if its body is destroyed, its head will fly and attack. Not a lot of background on it. And honestly, that artistic vision there doesn't even look like he did in the game so much. We suspected in the last video that he might be an Utrom. And of course, that's like the robot body and the head flies off. It's like an escape pod. Or just simply a alien creature, an android. But regardless, Junkie Head is its original name. And it was a good bit stouter in the original design as well. All right, next up we have Mr. Bio down here, and Mr. Bio says spits when damaged, and it says this man found immortality through the latest biotechnology. He can only be defeated if he is split into many pieces so that he cannot recombine. And this in our last video, we actually said he was the same fella as the Rock Lord, or as they said Gollum, because the designs look almost identical there, but they actually split him up into two different parts, and they're actually saying this is simply a guy who basically used his biotechnology, sort of like a mutant technology, and turned himself into something different where he can just simply split into smaller pieces. Fits completely into the turtle lore, but I'll acknowledge I was totally wrong on that fella, because I said he was part of the Rock Lord. Alright, Now we have Fleetus. Now, I was right in this guy. I said he's like a mutant flea or a flea astronaut, and look at him. It is definitely a flea. I mean, he's got the name Fleetus. He can hop. He says an annoying insect that hops around nearby. And I'm still basing it based on the comics. That flea right there is wearing an astronaut suit. You can't tell me different inside the game. Fleetus is still a robot astronaut flea. All right, the balloon bomber. They don't have the Foot Clan design on the balloon right there. Does it say it over here perhaps? Floats around dropping bombs. Contrary to its humorous appearance, it has deadly power. And that sucker did have deadly power because holy cow, it could knock you into the waters of the sewer and you had to restart the whole level. So yes, deadly power indeed. But no extra history on that particular one. In the next area, we start off with Physical Ski. If I'm saying it right, maybe it's all blurred together, be a different name. But it looks like he's got ski glasses on. So Physical Ski is what we're going to go with. A villain from the slums uses boomerangs. Now this is the one that I said looked a great deal like the Rat King. And so evidently I was wrong on that. They did not base on the Rat King. They based upon a skiing character. But it just doesn't make any sense because like this is in a like an attic level. It's not in a like an ice world at all. So I'm not really sure what the direction was with that. But I'll acknowledge that I could have been wrong on it being based on the Rat King because it definitely doesn't seem to be based on the Rat King here. Then we have the laser shooter, which is just simply a drone. It shoots lasers. Security robot armed with a laser gun known for its accurate shots. As we expected, you know, it's a drone. Keeping going down, the Boogie Beetle. Now, this one I call a robot mosquito, and I'm still sort of sticking with he looks more like a mosquito than he does a beetle in that particular drawing. But hey, I guess I could have been wrong on that. Relentlessly assaults weakened prey like a hyena. Like, why did they choose that imagery there, like a hyena, for the beetle? Could they not thought of a bug that goes after its prey as well, like a wasp or a yellow jacket or something like that? Why they choose to describe it like a hyena, no idea. The Climb Buster, we said it was like some sort of drone spider moving freely along the wall. They drop climbing players back to the ground. Yeah, I mean, that one's pretty basic. It's a drone. It looks like a spider. I mean, pretty straightforward. All right, next up we have the Birdie, which seems like a name out of like a Mario game. But it says Birdie flies, drops boulders. At first glance, looks like an ordinary bird. However, it can easily carry boulders bigger than itself. So I guess some sort of mutant bird, which makes sense. It's a mutant game. Let's keep going down here. The Rolling Ale. The Rolling Ale. And I said this looks obviously like a alien, and they're going into alien worlds or merging with Dimension X inside the game. And it says this giant pillbug digs deep underground. It may not be intelligent, but it uses its large body for dangerous ramming attacks. And so it's a mutated bug. I'm still going to go with some of the alien explanation based on where it's at in the game. You know, I'm sure the alien worlds have giant mutated bugs. The Needle Beast. I love his stance there. He looks so cocky, like, yeah, I'm the Needle Beast. Shoots needles, obviously, mutant porcupine looking thing. Shoots poisonous needles that can fell a large elephant, a strong enemy with a light body. Once again, I'm pulling most of these from the idea that they're merging with Dimension X. These are probably alien creatures because they're not stuff you see on our planet, obviously. And so we're still going to go with some of that explanation since they're not providing here. And the Dusk Stalker. It says the sneaky assassin machine hangs silently from the ceiling on a string. And I guess this one I suspect is more organic. I didn't expect this one to be a machine, but it can still play into some of that robotic alien android technology. All right, next up we have the jellyfish here. Pretty self-explanatory, but it's not a jellyfish from the water. Even though the player's guide and inside the Cowabunga Collection puts him into water level, he's not a water creature. He's a flying creature, self-destructs, an artificial life form created by a mad scientist. It may be small, but the self-destruct attack is devastating. And it was quite devastating in the game. Now, there is a jellyfish in the alien worlds inside the comics, and I think that's where they probably based the jellyfish from, like we talked about in the last video. But however, a mad scientist might have created an alien jellyfish. We don't know. This one really shocked me here. This was the Rocket Man. And I said that was clearly an astronaut because, look at it. But it says it's a foot soldier equipped with the latest weaponry. No one can beat them in air battle. And that's fine. Obviously, you got foot soldiers in the Technodrome where this guy appears. But, I mean, I guess I was wrong on astronaut. Now this one here, I've always loved this particular creature, the Tailnoid. And I mean, it's like a kangaroo, dinosaur, robot. I mean, like, how cool is that creature? A bio-android, its tail attack has the power to break steel. And that's exactly what we expected when we talked about in the last video. A bio-android fits perfectly with these alien worlds. Hella junk, like a helicopter mixed with a piece of junk. I mean, that's not very nice. This flying robot has great mobility, can approach at unexpected angles. And once again, all these fit in perfectly with the android technology from the early comics, as well as some of the alien stuff. But that's definitely more of the android part. And of course, we got some of the core bad guys here. And these are, we all know these fellas. Bebop, the punk pig. It just simply says a loyal minion. He's a combination of an animal and criminal, which is exactly what they did in the cartoon. Which goes to show they were trying to get some of the cartoon stuff in there based upon what they had. And then, of course, we now have Rocksteady, a Shredder minion. Nothing crazy as far as lore there goes. And we have, oh, let me zoom out a little bit. The Mecha Turtle. Normally looks like a turtle, but his true self appears after taking some damage. And we talked about that in the last video. Such an awesome looking design there. And it just sort of amazes me on some of these how they didn't change the design as the game progressed. Because this is very early on in the game when they, of course, created these concept arts. And we get to our last one here. It's going to be the giant mouser or the big mouser. Pretty much what you expect. Different angle though. I mean, I guess none of them are original angles. But that's not at all what we expect compared to the Technodrome down here. The enemy moving fortress base. Its eyeball is its weak point. Sums it up perfectly there. And last but not least, we have the Shredder. And of course, no new lore. It says holds a gun that can return Splinter into a human. If the turtles are hit by this, they will return to ordinary turtles. And we all know how devastating that was. And that's just a really cool picture of the Shredder, the Technodrome, and the Mouser there on the last page here. And the last page is some random notes as far as like enemy points and such as that go. But this is really cool to see the original concept for so many of these early enemies and bosses inside that first Turtles game. Did it explain so much the origin of where they got the ideas from? Not so much, and I still go based upon some of the ideas from our first video where we researched the comics more, some of the 80s culture, to try to figure out where they got the ideas for those enemies. But it's still so cool to actually see their original concept artwork, what these enemies were meant to be in their current state, and just sort of how they played into the game. But if you want to check out this artwork and some more concept artwork, the Cowabunga Collection has it for all the original or 13 Turtle games, retro Turtle games. You can check that out. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my other Turtles and video game videos listed up above. And as always, go out there, find a great game to play, and just simply have a great rest of the day.